Damon here with NLP Gym. Freedom from judgment. Before I get into that, if you haven't already, please click subscribe to this YouTube channel so you can get these videos on a regular basis. And follow us on Facebook and check out our website, which I'll mention again later after this video. Freedom from judgment. One of the things that I find in both in myself and others who I coach is what's stopping them a lot of times is a fear of being judged. This is quite normal. There's actually some really deep down, maybe, I don't want to say biological, maybe genetic reasons for this. And when we're growing up, we're sort of programmed to be careful about doing things we're not supposed to do or getting in trouble. And a lot of times when we're growing up, we don't know any better because we're kids. And suddenly something happens, we do something, and then we get punished for it. And this starts very early in our lives. But there's something that goes even deeper than that, and that is a fear of being separated from the tribe, a fear of not being loved, a fear of being ostracized for doing something wrong. Because when this would happen, say millions of years ago, when people ran sort of in tribes, or packs, if you were ostracized, that meant you were dead. When you were ostracized and kicked out of the tribe, and you had to fend for yourself with no help, no support, no community, you were pretty much done. So this runs really deep inside us, that this fear of being judged, and it's holding you back. Being judged, criticized, being told you're wrong, sort of like anything that would feel like an invalidation of who you are. So how do we get free of this? It's going to sound overly simplistic. That's what I love to do. I love to come up with, at first it's usually something I'm applying to myself. And in this case, that's one of those where I was working with this during trance camp with Steve Gilligan, and I realized that I had this extremely deep vulnerability that I was protecting, and it was holding me back in my life. And what it boiled down to was a fear of being judged, and this started very early, having to do with my parents when I was a kid, disappointing them. Maybe, if I did that, if I did something wrong, maybe they would withhold their love from me, and that's everything to a child. I mean, a child can be super resilient and endure so much trauma and so many hardships, but as long as they know that they're loved, it's the strangest thing. It can get them through anything, and that's why this is so important at a delicate age like that. So the fear of having that love withheld from them, or of being ostracized, it's a humongous fear, and it stays with us for a long time. It's programmed so deep into us, especially into our unconscious. And a lot of times it takes getting into our unconscious via trance to bring this thing up and assure that part of you that you can go forward and do things without that fear of judgment. Because if you think about it, in today's society, who cares if you're being judged? I mean, if, say at work, you do something and they sort of ostracize you from work, or everybody at work is coming down on you for something, you can just go change jobs. It really is that simple. I know this is a big fear that comes out when we're going through adolescence. We're afraid that our friends, our peers at school are going to ostracize us and judge us, and we're so insecure at that time. Now, you may not be able to just jump to the next school, but when you're an adult, you can move to a different job. You can get new friends. Your life is probably not going to be ruined unless you're extremely famous and you do something really terrible and you lose your fame. But you know what? Most of us are not famous. So if somebody loses their fame, they're still alive. They can still make money. They can still do all the things that they need to do. So really, our fear of being judged is extremely irrational. Now, that's probably not going to help you. If you can, go through this line of thinking like, oh, it's so irrational, it's so irrational, it's so illogical, you're probably still going to experience the fear of being judged. It's not like you can outthink your way to do that. So what type of action could you take that would counteract this fear of being judged? It's so simple. Stop judging others. Stop judging yourself. Just stop judging. We need judgment when it comes to assessing situations that are risky. We need judgment when it comes to making just good, sound decisions. We go wrong when we apply that to a person or even sometimes situations, and we're drawing a conclusion too quickly. When I realized this, I immediately I made a vow to myself that I was going to drop my judgment of myself and of other people. Now, this is, if you saw my other video about the power within, this is the same sort of concept. You have a center, and if you lose that center, if you lose that connection with it, that's not the problem. The problem is when you don't get it back. So it's not, problems aren't problems, mistakes aren't mistakes. If it's the response to the mistakes and problems that makes all the difference. So you're going to make mistakes. You're going to have problems. How do you respond to those? So if you find yourself judging, and it's going to happen, even if you make that vow to stop judging, it's going to happen. If you beat yourself up about it, you're just judging yourself. Stop it. So if it happens, if you happen to find yourself judging yourself or someone else, realize that and drop it. Just let it go. It is that simple, I assure you. What would it be like to just not judge? Not judging yourself and not judging others. When you stop judging, your fear of being judged goes away. Your fear of being judged is fueled by your own desire to judge. It's that desire to judge that is a way of trying to make ourselves feel superior. It's an ego trip. We want to feel like we're above that other person, or maybe even above the situation, so that we don't have to feel it. It's a way of turning the lights out on a part of yourself, and that's never gonna serve you. So just remember, judgment, drop it. If you don't want to be judged, don't judge. This is an extremely empowering thing when you start to incorporate this in your daily life. And you might have to, write yourself a reminder. I like to put ink marks on my hand because it's really close, and I can see that. Do something. Set your alarm on your phone to maybe 3 times a day. That reminds you not to judge. And then maybe you have to go back and look at the few hours before that alarm went off, or before you were reminded, and think about it. Had you judged anyone? It happens to me all the time in traffic. I'm going through traffic and somebody cuts me off, and I'm like, oh, that person doesn't know how to drive. Whatever. I do that sometimes too, and I don't realize that I cut people off. So to judge others is to be judged. Let it go. As always, check out our website, nlp-gem.com. Click subscribe on this YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook. We got some great trainings coming up, so I hope you can make it out to some of our trainings or even some of our free practice sessions. I'm working on some more online programs, so stay tuned. Take care.